Just to be clear, I never saw this ghost. Not really. My father had bought an old boys' school near Carshalton to do it up, split it into flats and sell them off. It was when his company was just starting up, so we all moved into a bit of it. It saved money, probably, when we needed to save money. And my bedroom was on the first floor. It had been the deputy headmaster's office back in the 1930s before it closed. In the summer holidays, I'd be in my room about 3 in the afternoon, doing nothing, playing on my Game Boy, and the old swing door outside at the end of the corridor would open. And usually that was because the workmen were there, or my family, perhaps. Only sometimes there weren't any work boots, any loud voices, nothing like that coming down the corridor. I'd stop in the middle of the game and go over to the door. It had frosted glass in the top half, so the deputy head could see who was outside. Bit spooky. I'd go over to the door and listen for who was coming down. I could tell people by how they walked on the floor, and I couldn't hear anything. But then I could hear these tiny little steps, these worn leather shoes dragging on the tiles. It was a child coming really slowly down the corridor towards my room. My sister was never that sort of age, but she didn't move like that. She never did. And just before he got to the door, he stopped. The footsteps stopped a foot or two from the door. And through the glass of the door, I'd hear this little boy's tired little sigh. And I'd look out, and there was nothing there. Just nothing. It had happened once or twice a month. After a while, I felt that I knew him. I knew this sad little boy who kept getting in trouble and sent to the deputy head's office. And he died, who knows when or how, but he died sometime. And this was what his life had been, mainly. Poor little chap. I never mentioned him to anyone at first because I felt this understanding of him. It wasn't malevolent or frightening. It was just sad. And then one day I just remarked on him during dinner. Someone was talking about things we'd have to tell the estate agent, and I just thought it was relevant, or I wanted to sound clever, because anyway, everyone was staring at me. My sister started giggling, and my mother had gone very pale, and my father said, "Well, that's very unusual. We might have to come back to this at some point." But we didn't. He just took it for granted. Just being careful, perhaps, or maybe he'd encountered something himself and just never told us. And he got this chap in, Mr. Akindole, who was a priest, and they'd wander around the house, him and my dad. I knew they were going to get rid of him. Mr. Akindole was lovely. He was smiley and sweet, and he played little games with my sister, and he told these stories during dinner. And all the time, he and my dad were thinking, right, how can we do something about this? Because of the house price. The night of the exorcism, I suppose, we had this odd little kind of slumber party. My sister did a little painting, and I made him the boy. I wrote something, just a letter saying I hoped he'd go somewhere nice and where he's not in trouble all the time. About 9 that evening, my mum and me and my sister were downstairs, while Mr. Akindole and my dad went upstairs to outside my room. And we played board games, and we had crisps and sweets, and not all the board games really worked because we needed 4 players and there were only 3 of us, but we were staying up late, it was fun. We'd never really done that before. And after about half an hour or so, there was this massive crash, like a cupboard had fallen over. And I ran out. My mum was frantic, but she didn't move, looking after my sister. And I ran out and up the stairs, straight into my dad at the top, and he grabbed me and he said, it's fine, it's all okay, just go back down now. And I could see past him, down the corridor, outside my room, and there was Mr. Akindole, wearing whatever it's called, a purple scarf, and he's on his knees. I can see his lips moving, his eyes are closed, and there's nothing else there. Nothing else there at all, except this little black wispy thing in the air just for a second. And I'm trying to look past my father at what's going on when this noise goes through my head, this whining noise like after there's been an explosion. And my ears start to hurt, and I feel really sick, and I'm screaming in pain, but no sound's coming out, and my dad's carrying me downstairs. And I wake up in the front room, and my dad's there, and my mum, and he's stroking my hair and telling me it's all right, and that they're really happy that I'm okay. And then he says, it's all right again, everything's sorted out. And I went out. I needed the toilet. I went out, and Mr. Akindole was sitting on the stairs. He looked so tired and old. He wasn't happy and funny anymore. It had all gone. He looks at me, and I don't know if he can even tell it's me at first, but he looks at me and he says, we did a bad thing. A bad thing we did. He was scared and lonely. That's all he was. And he didn't want to go. He did no harm. And now, oh God, boy, and he grabs me then. He grabs me and he holds me into his chest. He smells of sweat and he's quivering. His belly's wobbling like he's ill. Oh God, he says. He was screaming in fear, his face, because I can't do this properly. We just kicked him out and kicked him away. And he takes my face in his hands and he pulls me up to look in his face, and his eyes are veiny and yellow like bad little apples. Hell is a real place, he says. Hell is a real place. And I'm not thinking, I just say, no, you did. You did it. And Mr. Akindole never came back. He sent us cards at Christmas, but he would never put all of our names on. He just said, to you all. And then after a few years they stopped, so I suppose he must have died. And I sat there. I'd sit there in my room for a few days after the exorcism not with the game on or anything, just listening. And the door didn't go. And no one was in the corridor. And nobody sighed. and there really was nothing this time.